that video, but I think it was also pretty great. And it just gets to show you the reality of the Ukrainian people. And now, Ukraine geography now. Let's go. Let's not waste any more time. Huh. I wonder what Ukraine will be after the war. I think there's going to be a huge reconstruction period.
So I made a video explaining the Ukraine-Russia conflict in 10 minutes. I made a Geography Go video where I actually went to Ukraine. Now there's only one thing left to do. The actual Ukraine episode.
It's time to learn geography now!
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Get your Geography Now merch like this Geography Now t-shirt or mug at geographynow.com. It's like McDonald's, you know, we only have like 10 things on the website. It's not that hard to choose. In any case, it's not selling out if it's your brand. Gonna put the mug away. So as you guys know, I actually went to Ukraine. Thank you to visitukraine.today. They wanted to sponsor me to not only go to Ukraine, but also to learn more about their country, despite it being in the middle of a war. And also thank you, United 24 Media. They also helped me get some great footage and interviews with some exclusive people that you'll see in this video. And speaking of guests, as you know, I love having guest hosts from the country.
So who's
and
gonna
with
be?
that, say hi to Mr. Misha, our Ukrainian correspondent.
Hello.
How you doing, Misha?
Good, how are you?
Anything you want to just say about Ukraine to the world out there?
Yes, I bring you some really cool flag. You can read actually in Ukrainian as a freedom. V, this is L, this is O, and Ya. Voля, in Ukrainian, freedom.
We'll explain more about this in
Okay.
Flag Fan Day and all this.
Nice.
So yeah, you ready to start the episode?
Yes,
Let's do
I
it.
am.
Let's do it.
Political
Oh,
geography.
Really white teeth. So Ukraine is a complicated country, and not just in a contemporary sense, but like in a every possible way sense.
And it's definitely not easy to summarize, especially the part we are about to get into.
Little disclaimer, we will be portraying what is internationally recognized and constitutionally part of Ukraine as per the Belozheva Accords and the Budapest Memorandum post-USSR breakup.
So with
that,
Crimea.
Here's the motion graphic.
First of all, Ukraine is the largest country entirely within Europe, located in the eastern part of the continent, bordering 7 countries with the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov in the south. The country's capital and largest city is Kyiv, located in the north-central part of the country. Just outside the city, on the east side of the river, lies the largest and busiest international airport that services Kyiv, Boryspil International. However, there is a more localized, smaller airport near the city center on the west bank of the river, Zhuliany International. From there, the second and third largest cities, Kharkiv and Odessa, host the second and third largest and busiest airports, Odessa and Kharkiv International. Keep in mind, as of the onset of the Ukraine-Russia war, all air travel has been suspended and grounded until further notice, and the only way to enter into the country is either by land transport from all surrounding countries other than Russia and Belarus, as well as the Russian military-occupied region of Transnistria in eastern Moldova. Travel via Black Sea to the port of Odessa is also possible, but has come with a degree of precaution during conflict times due to the proximity of Russian involvement on the Crimean Peninsula. Speaking of which, subdivision-wise, the country is made up of 24 oblasts, 1 autonomous republic, Crimea, and 2 special status cities of Kyiv and Sevastopol. Now here's where things get more complicated. Even before conflict times, Sevastopol was considered a separate administrative entity from the rest of Crimea, which was already labeled as autonomous, and was even a closed city during the Cold War. As of 2014, Russian forces have annexed the Crimean Peninsula and special status city of Sevastopol, which currently hosts Russia's naval Black Sea Fleet. In 2016, Russia started constructing Europe's longest bridge, the Crimea Bridge, a 12-mile, 19-kilometer long bridge that spans across the Kerch Strait. Effectively, this connected Russia with the Crimean Peninsula for the first time. To this day, only 8 heads of state of 8 countries have announced recognition of the Crimean Peninsula belonging to Russia, whereas the rest of the world either does not recognize it or...
So it was Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Nicaragua, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, and Venezuela. So you got the whole gang.
of the Crimean Peninsula belonging to Russia, whereas the rest of the world either does not recognize it or still recognizes it as distinctly part of Ukraine. In addition, the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts had military-armed Russian-backed separatists that seized government buildings and claimed their own republic status. Later in 2022, Russia announced that they would annex them, and in what the United Nations General Assembly labeled as an attempted illegal annexation. Since 2014's Crimean Peninsula annexation, Ukraine has been in an ongoing war with Russia, and in 2022, Russian forces have entered and occupied parts in the east and south of Ukraine. There was an attempt in the north, but Ukraine was able to regain territory, and as of making this video, the situation is ongoing and ever-changing. Yeah,
the Ukrainians are really
definitely
fighting
a topic of long discussion.
And by the way, it's key.
After this, could you react to expert saber sparing? It's like another whole vid, just a minute or two. It's Polish saber fencing, but saber fencing is very iconic to East Europe. Yeah, we can watch a few minutes of that.
Kiev, not Kiev. Kiev, it's
Kiev.
a Russian version of Ukrainian capital, Kiev.
Also, you might hear the term Donbass quite a bit, referring to the Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast furthest on the east bordering Russia. The name is a portmanteau of the word Donetsk
Donbass.
Basin.
Donbass, it's the front line of Ukrainian fight. Historically, in the past, Donbass was one of the most industrialized area in Ukraine.
So how did all this crazy stuff happen?
Not easy to explain. The whole conflict wasn't just a 2002 issue. You have to go back in time.
Oh, you mean like the 2014 Euromaidan protests?
Annexation of Crimea? The Donbass separatist wars too?
Well, those some things led to it.
Or do you mean the 2008 Yushchenko political crisis?
Or the 2004 Orange Revolution?
Well, I mean...
Oh, no, wait, let me guess. You're bringing this back to the Soviet collapse and all those accords that were signed in the 90s.
That played a huge role, but
Wait, is this about Khrushchev handing over Crimea in 1954?
I mean, if you want to add that in there, then fine, but that's not exactly...
Pre-Soviet? Really?
oh, you have no idea how far back this conflict is going.
Basically, I made a video covering this topic, so we don't have time to spend 80 years scratching.
Long story short, this conflict has been going on forever. A lot of people have died historically, and it just seems like a really, really tough thing to explain. There's a bunch of history between Russia and Ukraine, so it's kind of hard to really explain it. So
The surface. Reference videos are a great way to save time. High five, yeah.
Historically, Ukraine was occupied by
Wow,
the
look at
different
all that.
civilization through the history.
In fact, the oldest excavated culture being the mysterious Neolithic Tripillian culture.
Crimean Peninsula was part of so many different empires in the
too.
past.
It was the furthest extent of the Golden Horde, back in the 13th century.
Wait a second, hold up. Did you just say that part of Ukraine was Mongol?
Yeah.
A little more complicated than that, more like a Kipchak Turkicized offshoot version of them, but technically kind of yes.
Cry me a river.
In any case, it wasn't until the 9th century that the Kievan Rus was established, and it was essentially the home of the Eastern Slavs.
The word Rus was invented by Vikings
Norse,
or
yeah.
the Slavs. If you know your Nordic history,
the Rus,
basically went like
Russia.
I'm going west. Well, I'm going east. I guess I'll go north?
this. Okay, that's enough history. Let's talk about something else. Famous places.
Famous places, yes. And who better to do it than some actual Ukrainians? Here you go.
Hi guys, my name is Tony.
Hi guys, my name is Mary.
Oh, I think they were on the video we
Are
just
the
saw.
some of famous places, 8 UNESCO heritage sites.
Including the first one, St. Sophia Cathedral, the oldest cathedral in Eastern Slavic countries. Kiev features
Wow,
Lavra.
so not only
Lavra
Ukraine,
is
but
a large
Slavic
and
countries.
important monastery.
Odessa city, and Odessa has Potemkin stairs. We have our own Statue of Liberty, yeah, that's right.
We have the Love Tunnel. But
Oh,
was once
okay.
the capital of the Cossack hetman on the left side of Ukraine.
Sofiivka Park, yeah, Sofiivka Park.
The love
beautiful in spring and
Like
summer. We have so many castles and fortresses in Ukraine.
Motherland Monument in Kiev.
We also
the
saw that on
ancient
the
Baba
video.
stones.
And finally, Chernobyl. To this day, 2,600 square kilometers exclusion zone deemed unsafe for habitation.
But people are still curious and love to visit, and has become a top tourist destination in
That's
the
all.
recent
That's
years.
And I forget about.
it's kind of funny though. Like Chernobyl has become some sort of touristy spot, especially if you want to do like extreme, like hardcore tourism.
Yeah,
The city inside.
Yeah.
And hope you can visit Ukraine.
yeah, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Slava Nazi.
Thank you, Tony and Maria.
Hey, did you know Ukraine might have the geographic center of Europe, the village Dilove? Oh no, I actually been. It's a forest and cross and that's it.
Hey, I did that. Okay, gone. So there you go, a complicated map with complicated backstory and even more complicated mode of operating itself.
Ukraine is not a simple country.
No, it's not. But one thing that does seem to be quite simple is the landscape of Ukraine.
It's a little bit flat.
A little bit, most of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with that, let's move on.
Physical geography.
So yeah, Ukraine is pretty flat,
So,
right? I
on the
mean, that's the whole point. That's why they've invaded. They've been invaded so much is that they are so flat, and that's why on part Russia wants that area. Russia wants Ukraine because it's just an extra step for protection, right? It's more flat land. Then you got close enough the Carpathian Mountains, so there is like a little bit of defense. Yeah, so if you didn't know that, that's why Russia really wants Ukraine. So kind of protection from the European, from NATO.
Surface Ukraine looks
But
like
it's
mostly flat
down.
country with a little bit of fluctuation topography.
But it goes so much more deeper than just farms. Ukraine's
Traditionally, Western Ukraine has been closer to Europe, while Eastern Ukraine was closer to Russia. The Austrians were nicer to the Ukrainians than the Russians. Really? Huh, that's funny, though.
land is an
I mean, that's
absolute
cool and good.
resource powerhouse that feeds not only themselves, but much of Europe. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
soon. In the
they do
meantime,
produce a
here's
lot
the
of,
motion
food.
graphic. For one, the majority of Ukraine lies on the East European plain. This is an enormous stretch of generally flat
Super
plains
flat
and plateaus
land, yeah.
that extend all the way to what are considered the geographic borders of what constitute Europe along the Ural and Caucasus Mountains. Within Ukraine, the landscape essentially slopes downward west to east, starting in the furthest southwestern part of the country where you can find the highest elevation in the Carpathian Mountains. Here you can also find the tallest peak, Hoverla, in the Zakarpattia Oblast. The Crimean Peninsula is the
not very
only
tall.
other place that has a notable mountain range within the country, averaging around 1,500 meters high. The peninsula is only connected via the Perekop Isthmus, which at its narrowest is only about 3 miles or 5 kilometers wide. Otherwise, the rest of the peninsula is separated by shallow lagoons and bays, with the 70-mile, 112-kilometer-long skinny Arabat Spit, or the Arabat Arrow, a barrier island that separates the Sibash Lagoon from the Sea of Azov. From there, you have the Podolian and Dnieper uplands in the north, the Polesian lowland and Dnieper lowlands across the longest river of the country, the Dnipro River, that essentially bisects the country in half, emptying into the Black Sea near the city of Kherson. The Dnipro River is the lifeline of the country, containing several hydroelectric power stations and dams that have effectively created 6 reservoirs along its banks, which is why it looks like such a fat, wide river on maps and satellite images. In terms of freshwater lakes, the country has tons and tons of small ponds and lakes along their forests and plains.
The Austrians allowed Ukrainian culture and language to flourish, whilst the Russian wanted everyone to be Russian. That makes sense, especially on the Russian side, but wow, the Austrians apparently were pretty nice guys.
However, the largest inland body of fresh water would be Lake Yalpa in the Odessa Oblast, not far from the Danube River that separates them from Romania.
The
Yes,
Danube,
that is
yeah.
correct. Ukraine is the last country the mighty Danube River gets to encounter before it drains into the Black Sea.
And speaking which, if you're afraid of deep water, probably the best place where you can learn how to swim is Azov Sea, because it's so shallow, you can walk in hours and hours and hours and it's never get deep.
Oh, really?
Really?
In any case, although...
Yo, that actually sounds pretty dope, dude. Not like an ocean or a sea that's so fucking like tiny. I don't know.
Most of the
That
country
sounds
is
pretty cool.
flat. It is loaded with export material, and you guys really love your coffee. Like I went to Lviv. There, I believe Lviv has more cafes per capita than anywhere else in the world. There's like over 1,500
1,500.
cafes.
Yeah, and the coffee in Lviv, it's amazing.
And speaking of coffee, it's time for my triple shot espresso break. And with that, here's Noah to explain a little bit more on the trade sector.
That
Take it away,
surprised me
Noah.
too. Yeah, I know, right?
All right, John.
There we go, Noah,
Time
come
to
on.
Make sure that you know a few things. As an agricultural powerhouse, Ukraine is often touted as the breadbasket of Europe, as they have a huge
Noah is
share
a
of
handsome
wheat
guy,
and
you
barley
know?
exports. They're
Kinda
also
jealous.
often ranked the #1 producer of sunflower seeds in the world. This is because about 2/3 of their land is arable, and much of it blessed with the rich Chernozem soil. It is characterized by its dark black color containing high percentages of phosphorus and humus, perfect for crop cultivation.
Hummus?
Not hummus. It's soil made of decomposed organic material rich in nutrients and has a high moisture retention.
Organic material with high moisture? I mean, that's not that far off from hummus.
Sure, whatever.
Can you make humus out of hummus?
You don't get to talk anymore. In any case, despite having a mixed economy made up of industry, energy, mining, and manufacturing sectors,
Agriculture.
they have remained one of the lowest income nations in all of Europe and is classified as a lower middle income economy. This is due to many factors such as hyperinflation in the 90s, monetary expansion due to government spending. The largest hit, though, would have to be their cutting of ties to their former largest trading partner, Russia. Since then, their trade with the EU has increased dramatically, mostly going through Poland. Ukraine is also a mining powerhouse, hosting about 90 different minerals, 20 of which are economically significant. Today, Ukraine operates 4 nuclear power plants, including the largest in Europe in Zaporizhia. There used to be 5 plants, but we all know about the
Chernobyl,
Chernobyl disaster in 1986, the largest nuclear accident to date. Nobody is allowed to move or give birth there. However, a few elderly inhabitants are allowed to remain in their original homes where they live quietly and receive aid. Weirdly enough, this actually became one of Ukraine's largest tourist destinations post-Soviet breakup. It was like
People are weird though. Like, why are people visiting Chernobyl? It's just like curiosity, I guess, human curiosity. Like, we are all curious to see what's going on in Chernobyl, but just kind of says a lot about humanity and the way we
So devastating.
visit places.
Can I see it?
This isn't a joke. We have to block it off.
But I'm a disaster enthusiast. I'll pay you a lot of money.
Okay, give me your money.
And that's how that industry started. They also have their own domestic automobile manufacturing plants and brands, the largest being ZAZ, or Zaporizhian Autos. In addition, Ukraine is one of the 9 countries with a full cycle of aerospace hardware engineering and production. They're probably most famous for their production of
The
large-scale
Antonov,
Antonov and Ruslan cargo transport jets, including the AN-225 Mriya, the largest transport aircraft ever created. Unfortunately, on February 24, 2022, it was destroyed in a Russian attack with parts in a hangar at the Antonov airport. Plans have been made to rebuild it though. That was a lot of heavy detail. However, one person that always lightens a heavy mood would be our resident animal correspondent, Gary Harlow. Let's roll.
Gary Harlow here. Time to fly into this like a Ukraine. First of all, Ukraine is a treasure trove of
Oh
food.
no,
You
yeah.
can find the
Oh
national
no.
flower marigolds
Why did you
everywhere.
do this to
And
us?
thanks to the cooler, wet climate,
No,
Ukraine
you know what,
is
I'm
able
not-
to
I'm
harbour
not-
over
I'm not
6,600 species of identified fungi and many more problems.
I'm just not listening to it. You know, I just
Really
don't.
is,
Ah,
though.
why
Mushroom
do I hate
kingdom.
this guy
Oh,
so
no,
much?
the
I don't
Nintendo
know.
missiles are coming.
But I
In
just
some of the
don't. I just
forests
don't
and
like him.
mountain
You know what?
regions,
I'm gonna go
animals
to the
like
bathroom.
wolves,
You guys
brown bears,
are gonna have to deal
lynxes,
with this.
martens, and boars can be found. Birds are a huge part of Ukraine's ecosystem. Over 100 species are either native or migrate to Ukraine. If a little egret or white stork make a nest on a telephone pole or on top of your house, it is said to be good luck. It's like, you have been chosen for my blessing. The national animal, though, is the nightingale, known for being able to mimic sounds it hears and repeat them back. They would be like, you have been chosen for my blessing. Oddly enough, due to the lack of human activity, animals are repopulating and thriving in Chernobyl. Even the famous Chevalsky horse, one of the most endangered in the world, known for their shorter, stockier, chunkier bodies. Speaking of short and chunky, I've got a baby daughter to feed. Cheers, mates!
Thanks, Gary. Speaking of mushrooms, a favorite pastime of many Ukrainians is mushroom picking in the forest, as many of the species are edible and used.
There we go. What did I
The
miss?
cuisine of Ukraine is definitely worth it.
But
To talk
it
more
was
about
funny
we have
once,
a
it got
very
unfunny
special guest
fast.
star, possibly the most famous chef in Ukraine, Mr. Klopotenko. Take it away to the food.
Introduce yourself.
So, my name is Yevgen Klopotenko. I'm Ukrainian chef and I'm the guy who is changing the food culture in Ukraine, and I'm trying to put Ukraine on the world's map.
Also, stand up, show your pants.
That's my pants.
The Cossack
Yeah.
pants.
So the most famous appetizer is like our pork fat or salo, because we were not using a lot of butter. The most important dish for the Ukrainian cuisine, it's a borscht.
Borscht,
It's
of
our
course.
main dish, and now it's from the 1st of July of 2022. It's a World Heritage dish. Next dish is
Really?
called sirniki. We just
That's
frying
good,
it, and
yeah.
it's very nice.
Looks
So
like
the third
hotcakes,
dish, it's
yeah.
called dumplings, or we call it vareniki. But in Ukraine, it's very famous to
His haircut
use
looks like a
sour cherry
Kozrak.
and poppy
How do you
seed.
pronounce
Chicken
it?
Kiev.
Oh, I love chicken.
Kos?
Yeah, chicken
Right?
Kiev,
Cossack?
chicken fillet, and inside it has a butter and some dill normally.
Can you cook chicken Kiev with salo? I would try that.
where-
That would be super Ukrainian.
No, it will be super fat. Can call
So?
it. So I
How
mean,
is it?
I mean, you also Kiev cake, some kind of meringue with the nuts. Kvass is our, it's like fermented bread
Kvass.
drink, and we're putting this kvass on top of the meat. It's called vereshchaka.
Last question.
It looks
Favorite
tasty,
dish
though.
You can cook.
Me?
Do you have a signature dish?
Borscht. If you want to touch borscht, you have to touch me. Touch me.
I
Bam!
feel
Yeah,
it, I
you feel it.
All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Funny
you.
guy.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
really
you. Yeah.
Thank you, chef. And with that, I will take my leave. Back to you, Barbs.
Thank you, Noah.
Yeah, also Ukraine have a quiet culture around the bread.
From my research, you guys have over 80 kinds of ritual breads.
Oh, my mom also, she cooked this bread, it's called korovai, and it's now become an intangible heritage
Of Ukraine.
Untangible
Well, in any
heritage.
case, just like the food, the people of Ukraine have so many unique traits and flavors to them. Let's discuss that.
The demographics,
So,
that's
Misha,
right.
your opinion, what is a Ukrainian person?
It's a person who have a Ukrainian heart, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, what color you are. I live in US, I live here, but I still have a deep attachment to the culture and people.
You can take the Ukrainian out of Ukraine, but you can't take the Ukraine out of them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So Ukraine's population has gone through major fluctuations over the past 3 decades. Their population actually peaked in 1993 at 52 million. However, factors like mass immigration
and low
for
birth
a while,
rates,
having a higher death rate than a birth rate, made Ukraine's population decline sharply. And also, depending on which census you rely on, population statistics of Ukraine might conflict because some include or don't include Crimea and the Donbas Oblast of Donetsk and Luhansk.
As of 2023, Russia has annexed over 90% of Luhansk Oblast and half of the Donetsk Oblast, including the capital Donetsk.
With all that taken into account, due to the conflict times displacing people across the country, ethnic group numbers have fluctuated and there's no concrete way of getting exact numbers, but this is the general demographic makeup I got by averaging out numbers.
It's gonna be like most of the Ukrainians, right?
The population of Ukraine as of 2023 is around 42 million, which is a rough estimate that includes the returned diaspora, but also does not include the Crimean population, around 2.5 million, and shaving off some of the 2.5 million population living in annexed populations of the Donbas region, but does include the 500,000 of Ukrainians in Ukraine-controlled areas of the Donbas. It seems the country is, of course, predominantly made up of people that identify as ethnically Ukrainian at somewhere around 80%. There, somewhere around 17% of the nation claims to be ethnic Russian.
That's a big
these
piece
lines
of
are kind
pie.
of blurred because many people are also mixed between both Ukrainian and Russian parents, and many may claim either side depending on who you talk to.
It basically lost like 10 million since 1993. They lost 10 million people.
But this
11.
seems to be the general number. From there, the remaining population is made up of various other ethnic groups, mostly from neighboring nations like Romanians, Hungarians, Polish, Ukrainian Jews, Pontic Greeks, and yes, even a small population of Koreans.
In any case, quickly, the country uses hryvnia, it's a national currency. We use Type C and F block outlet, and we drive on the right side of the road.
In Ukraine, the official language obviously is Ukrainian, an East Slavic language descended out of the medieval Ruthenian language.
Russian, it's also common spoken secondary language through the, obviously it was introduced during the Russian Imperial era and Soviet Union.
Also, there's Suzyk. What is Suzyk? Explain.
Suzyk is my first language actually, with which I grew up. It's a kind of mix of Ukrainian and Russian, but also have a lot of different words which doesn't exist anywhere else.
Since 2014, a lot more people have just started speaking Ukrainian, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they kind of...
Yeah, right? I still continue speak in Suzyk with my family, like mom, dads, and my best friends. But Ukrainian, it's more common language what you use in the country. It's obviously changed.
The closest languages you guys can understand are probably Belarusian and Polish, maybe?
Yeah, I think like if anyone speak in Belarusian, Polish, Czech language, you can understand easily.
Oh, you can understand Czech too?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Speaking of which, near about 3/4 of all Ukrainians claim to be affiliated with the Eastern Orthodox Church, and then 10% being Catholic.
Mostly in the western part.
Yeah,
yes, like by Lviv.
And the southern part is Muslim.
Now, there are quite a few...
The USSR relocated many Koreans to many parts of the USSR. It's why there's so many of them in Central Asia. Wow, actually, yeah, the USSR just relocated a bunch of people in general. That is absolutely true.
Regional customs
I didn't
between
know they
Ukrainians, like, you know,
relocated
you have the Hutsul
Koreans.
Ukrainians and the Carpathians, and you have the Bukovina Ukrainians, but nothing exemplifies the Ukrainian identity more than the Cossack spirit, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. What is a Cossack?
Cossacks eventually mean freemen. It's actually people who doesn't want to be part of Polish, Lithuanian, and also Russian Empire. They was made from exiles from both places and want to build free society.
The haircut?
Kind of sounds like a country of just adventurous people.
Yes, it is.
The exact origins are disputed, but in a nutshell, they stem from...
I just think that the Ukrainian people they just want to be independent, you know, like they just want to be left alone. They're giving me that vibe, you know, that they just want to be left alone. They want to do their own thing. But historically, they have always been conquered by so many empires. I think it's just time to leave them alone, basically. A lot of historical Korean territory in East Russia. Huh.
Semi-nomadic
I guess
peoples
close
in
to like the
Pontic
North
steppe and
Korean
Caspian
border,
steppe region,
like
somewhere
that
around
region,
the 13th
in the
century after all that
Pacific.
crazy with the Mongols went down.
Oh, and I think the peak of the Cossacks culture
Golden Horde.
was when the Bogdan Khmelnytsky was in power, because he established the border and capital.
They were right in between two major empires, the Russians and the Polish-Lithuanians. And when said states saw these Cossacks, it was like, those Cossacks are very rough and militaristic, and they're like very hell-bent on maintaining their autonomy.
Why don't we use that to our advantage?
How so?
They love fighting, so why don't we just hire them as mercenaries to fight our battles while promising them autonomy?
I mean, I really do want to expand past the Urals, and you have that whole beef with the Ottoman empires.
Right, right.
Wait, don't we hate each other too?
Long story short, but Cossacks have always been a central part of Ukrainian culture and identity.
Wait, don't you guys also have like a Cossack cartoon like called Kozaki?
Yes, it's three Cossacks, they always fight with Russians.
In any case, you need to be strong and fierce when competing in sports. So with that, let's jump over to the sports part with Art.
Merry Christmas.
Well, I like this guy. You know,
Let's
he's
get started. Take him. Alrighty, peeps.
I
Let's
don't
get
know.
Ukraine in the membrane. You know that song?
If you guys can notice, I'm not really like a sports type person, so I don't really know much about sports. But
Like insane in the membrane. Never mind. Ukrainian sports have always gone hand in hand. So
actually,
much so that, in
Bogdan
fact, they've created their own, like,
Khmelnytsky was
combat
pretty cool
hokka,
with
a
Polish
martial
kings
art
and
that was
nobles.
invented by Zaporizhian Cossacks that mixed
Polish man
traditional
himself,
dance
yeah.
with fighting. There's also traditional hopak saber fencing and wrestling.
You played a Cossack in the Russia episode, remember?
I do remember that. Yeah, I was really pent up and angry. Ukraine has competed in every Olympics as an independent nation since
But after one of the
1994.
nobles
Since then,
raided his
Ukraine has
lands,
racked
he
up
said,
nearly
fuck you,
150
and
medals
started a
at the
revolution,
Olympics as
kind of.
2023,
Interesting
with
guy is
38
what I'm
golds,
seeing,
the
huh?
best events being gymnastics and wrestling. Larissa Latinia is
Wrestling.
a total national treasure, competing under the Soviet Union. Out of any male or female, she held the record for 48 years, with the most gold medals at 9, and overall she won 18 medals over the course of 3 Olympic Games. In terms of wrestling, Ukraine has many champions.
Oh my God,
But a
look at
huge
that
deal
guy.
in wrestling would be Jean Belianuk, who got the gold in Tokyo Olympics, and we got him on the
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Barbs was actually able to interview him in the Ukraine episode here. Here's a quick snapshot right here.
Hey everyone, my name is Jean Belianuk. I'm Afro-Ukrainian. I'm Olympic champion. in
Afro-Ukrainian.
Greco-Roman wrestling and member of Ukrainian parliament. My first big win it was first place.
He
in
looks
the
like Jamie
European
Foxx.
Championship. Mr.
He's giving me a lot of
Zelensky,
Jamie Foxx
we
vibes.
know each other before that, and he told me about he want to invite me.
What was your life like growing up in Ukraine?
I was born in 1991 when Soviet Union
Just collapsed.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And new country, new rules, and that's
He was
why
born-
and I was only with my mom. Guys with my type of skin,
Of course,
yeah, and different difficult situation, but
Do Ukrainian people generally accept you?
Ukrainian people very tolerant, you know, and I have a lot of friends. School of life, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe I decided to go into Greco-Roman wrestling.
Yeah, and now you're in the parliament. Now you're famous gold medalist. Are you happy?
Yes, I feel
Always
honored.
want to go to Poland, not gonna
after
lie.
Barack Obama.
You feel like Ukraine-
Right over there on deployment.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, man. And I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jean.
I
Such
think
a
I'm
cool
gonna
guy.
go to
Anyway,
Poland
there's so many other
in
things
summer,
that we
but
can
I don't know.
highlight in Ukrainian athletics, like the boxing brothers, the 2-time world's strongest man winner, that dude who broke over 35 pole vaulting records. But at the end of the day, you must mention FC Dynamo, Ukraine's most popular football club. They have won dozens of USSR championships and UEFA cups. And number 7, the Ukrainian dream, Andrei Shevchenko, who won awards for the best player and best scorer. He won 2 bronze and 1 golden ball award. Today he's doing good and he enjoys playing golf in his spare time. Don't we all just want that? To look back at all the glory and just play golf in our spare time.
Of course.
That's right, giving up on life, baby.
Polish food is really good. I don't think I have tried a
Thank
lot
you,
of Polish
Art.
food.
It's important to mention the acrobatic school in Ukraine is also really big.
Yeah, like Ukraine's Got Talent, there's always like 50 different acrobatic acts or something. Anyway, so many things about the culture. You know what's going to happen. Hannah is going to take over that.
Does Ukraine do well in Eurovision? I mean, Ukraine does participate in Eurovision, right? Oh, because I live there. Oh, okay.
Hannah, take it away with the culture segment.
If the culture segment. It's insane. We're in Ukraine. So what are some of the things that are distinctly Ukrainian? For one, you have to kind of look at the roots. Historically, Ukraine had a significantly different climate and different rich soil from their Russian neighbors. This influenced so many things in daily life, like traditional Ukrainian white clay thatched roof houses versus wooden Russian cabins. Many historians also attribute this as being a factor to why Ukrainians have a more individualistic based culture due to the fact that single families could be completely self-sufficient on their own land, as opposed to the more collectivist Russians that had fewer immediate access to resources and needed to depend on a larger community to operate. It's a theory, make of it what you will. In any case, the national dress is the vyshyvanka, and the embroidery has very specific motives and patterns and are indicative to the specific region.
Okay, so it depends on the region.
Many of these patterns are rooted in ancient Slavic mythology and beliefs, which are to some extent
so you can know if someone is from a certain region just because of the
Ukrainians have also been huge on inventions and accomplishments. Things like CDs, bloodless blood tests, vaccines against the plague and cholera, postcodes, kerosene lamps, and the first kidney transplant was performed in Ukraine as well. The list goes on. Of course, Ukraine has never shied away from the art. You might find the whimsical opishina ceramics in gift shops, usually depicting lions and rams. If that's not your thing, maybe go for some Petri Kiva. Literature is a huge pastime too. This guy is considered the first modern Ukrainian author. Taras Shevchenko is a national poet, and everyone knows Lesya Ukraina was one of the most famous writers that pushed for Ukrainian independence. Today, numerous monuments and 6 museums are dedicated to her honor, and she is even on their money.
I'm joking. Poland is cool for tourist destination for sure. A lot of places to visit.
Nonetheless, Ukrainian cinema has lived on. No movie more world-renowned and critically acclaimed than Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. Yeah, if you want to see real authentic Ukrainian customs and traditions, Ukrainians will tell you to go to the Carpathians. That's where all the original stuff goes down. And another original thing Ukraine has is music. And let's see who's taking over the music segment, because these days it switches off a lot. Honestly, anyone's better than Keith.
No.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's
Shakira's stunt
I
double.
haven't been able to have enough time to even come up with a script, so our good friend Yvonne is gonna take it over. Also, I want to say a big shout out to the metal band Ginger. I love you guys. And here is Yvonne with the music. Later, dogs.
Hey, most of Ukrainians believe that musicality is one of the main features of Ukrainians. The oldest musical instruments found in Ukrainian territory
17 million subscribers. Jesus Christ.
There are Ukrainian musical instruments like lira, kobza, truby, surmy, litavri.
Is this guy like the PewDiePie of Ukraine?
Took place in Ukraine, such as kupola, malanka. So a lot of Ukrainian songs have pagan elements.
Anybody's better than Keith. Says a woman knockoff to she's married to the knockoff Aussie? No fucking shot.
Almost all of the kobzars were killed.
Dude, you're lying. She's not married to that guy. I refuse to believe that.
Prohibited and confiscated, just like literally burned. Maxim Berezovsky, born 1745, basically the Ukrainian Mozart. Semen Gulak Artemovsky, author
He looks
of
like
one
the
of
Ukrainian
the first
Mozart
Ukrainian
too.
opera, Zaporozhye Dunaim. Mykola Lysenko, born 1842, called the father of Ukrainian music. He also a father of USSR and Russian anthem, because his composition Epic Fragment was stolen and rearranged. Stravinsky probably had a relationship with a Coco Chanel, has his own star in Hollywood. Mykola Leontovich, composer of probably one of the most known Ukrainian songs, Shedrik, or you may know it as
Oh yeah, they are married, I think.
Hasn't seen his success because USSR's Bolsheviks killed him in 1921. Volodymyr
Wow.
Lebedev, born 1949, right?
Yo, if that guy can't get laid, I mean, if that guy can't get a wife, especially, Hannah's kind of cute, so I don't know, man. I'm feeling more optimistic about my chances.
Ukrainian hit songs of
They have a
time,
baby
Shavona
too,
Luka,
wow.
Balakiore was killed by KGB. Okay, Ukraine has taken part in the Eurovision contest since 2003, and even 3 times we took the first place. Ruslana in 2004, Jamala in 2016, and Kalush in 2022. So that's kind of all I gotta say.
So it's not even like 30 years. It's more like 20 years that they participated, and they won 3 times in 20 years. That's insane.
Barbs?
Thank you, Ivan. I remember one time, though, I tried to whistle in a car, and the guy yelled at me.
Damn, 20 years, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, whistle, it's in Ukrainian culture, it's kind of like for bad luck.
We've covered so much about the culture and the people and the demographics of Ukraine. Guess what? There's other people in this world, and Ukraine seems to interact with them.
Oh,
which brings us to the last segment.
This is gonna be interesting.
So Ukraine and friends around the world, it's just like their history. It's ever complicated and shifting.
Always shifting. Yes.
But
Rip
here's
Up
the
Aussie
animation. Let's get into it.
Rip Off Aussie has more race than What If Autist. Oh my god. Dude, no way. What If Autist? Oh my god. That was funny, man. That was so funny, bro. Just coming for the neck. Yeah, my man came off aggressive. That's a good one, dude.
First of all, to this day, it seems their number one foreign policy objective has been integration with the Euro-Atlantic zone.
bro?
In 2018, they officially ended their participation with the CIS, further cutting ties to Russia and other members, but mostly Russia. Outside of Europe, Canada was not only the second country in the world to recognize their independence, but actually has the largest Ukrainian diaspora at somewhere around 1.5 million, mostly concentrated in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Today, they have a free trade agreement, and many cities are sister cities, including Kyiv with Toronto. The USA has the...
Not gonna lie, I watched the What About This vid recently. Seemed less deranged than normal. Huh. Maybe he's
second
changing.
largest Ukrainian diaspora in the Americas,
the
has
US,
also been a key ally in more recent times, as they, along with other countries, have pledged billions of dollars in aid during war times. High-level visits have been conducted by both heads of state, and overall relations have grown since the 2010s. In Asia, it seems Turkey and China have an interesting role. Both have expressed interest in helping mediate somewhat in conflict. However, for the most part, they've been low-key and just business-oriented. Since 2008, China surpassed Russia as becoming Ukraine's largest trade partner, and in 2022, Chinese ambassador to Ukraine, Fan Xianrong, is quoted for saying that China will support Ukraine both economically and politically despite conflict times. Turkey is an interesting one.
And they also don't recognize the annexation of Crimea, though. So that's interesting. China doesn't recognize the annexation of Crimea. Huh. I would have thought otherwise, but
not only have they both had historically strained relations with Russians, for Turks dating back to Ottoman times, but Erdogan is also explicitly quoted for telling former President Poroshenko that Turkey would not recognize the annexation of Crimea. In addition, they are a major partner in Ukrainian exports across the Black Sea and do lots of business with them. Back in Europe, though, we get a more clear image of where the closest ties lie today. And since 2022, the EU has granted them candidate status for accession to the EU, and Zelensky signed an EU membership application. Since then, they have also joined NATO's Enhanced Opportunity Partner Interoperability Program and have submitted an application for membership as well. Every Baltic country and Finland have expressed huge support for Ukraine since the onset of the war. Each side has a period of time understanding conflict with Russia. Their EU neighbors, Slovakia...
Oh, true. Yeah, because it would conflict with their story about Taiwan if they recognize the annexation and their cause of the Russian... Yeah, that's true, though. It's because China wants to... have, let's say, good relations with Eastern Central Europe.
Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Germany, Czechia, and non-EU Moldova have all taken in many refugees during the war and have pledged support for Ukraine. The UK is a huge supporter. Immediately when you enter any British airport, you will see signs set up in the Ukrainian language offering assistance for refugees. In addition, they have pledged aid to Ukraine and are even in a trilateral security pact with Ukraine. When it comes to their best friend, almost every Ukrainian I have talked to has said Poland, which is the third member of the trilateral security pact. Poland has taken in the most refugees since the war. They share a bond based on history of understanding what life was like either under the Soviets or the Warsaw Pact. Their languages are pretty
I mean, if you ignore the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Intelligible, and integration of Ukrainians into Polish society is incredibly easy for them. All of the drama of the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth years centuries ago is pretty much over and they've moved on. Ukrainians and Poles will always be there for each other.
In conclusion, Misha, you are the Ukrainian. I'm gonna give this to you and I'm gonna head out. See ya.
Ukraine, it's not just border. Ukraine, it's people, soul, culture.
We are happy to train a lot of Ukrainian troops. That's nice, though. I mean, the gigantic economy of the United Kingdom could definitely help a lot in Ukraine. Yeah, East Europe has been heavily invested by China since, they offer an alternative to the vulnerable maritime trade routes to Europe.
As long as Ukrainian people exist and culture, there will be always Ukraine. And we will always fight for our freedom and independence. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you, Misha, for being in this episode. Really appreciate it. Stay tuned. United Arab
Emirates is coming next. That's going to be an interesting episode. Gosh, I can't wait for the USA episode. Jesus, that's going to be insane. That's gonna be so cool. Maybe we moved on, but Polish people still have issues with UPA. What's UPA? All right, so I mean, I think Crod uploaded a new video, but it's just too long though. It's like an hour, and I haven't watched it really. Is it good?